We're broadcasting and waiting for the channel to go live. The channel is live. Excellent. All right, so hello everyone and welcome. We're going to be playing After the War, a science fiction role-playing game of mimetic horror, like it says on the tin, so to speak. I'm Christiana Ellis. I am the games master tonight. Players include David Archambault,
Hello.
Lee Burdett,
Hello.
Novelis Reed,
Hello.
and Paul Weimer.
Hi there.
So, this is session 2 of After the War. In case anyone is finding us just now, you probably noticed it say that on the title of the stream. However, let's talk a little bit about what you'd need to know if you didn't watch session 1. And also to remind everybody what happened. It's been a week, which in quarantine time is a million years. So,
Yep.
Valid.
basic premise of After the War is that there was a Star Trek style utopia with lots of different alien races spread across the galaxy, but then the entire civilization was almost entirely wiped out by a sentient melody known as the song, which basically just would infect and take over any sapient mind it encountered, and just use the taken over people to spread itself more. And it was happening very quickly and going very poorly until a few people managed to unleash a counter virus that they called Tormenta, which was successful in purging the song from most people's minds, with the side effect that some of the people who were freed from the song also then turned into Tormenta rage monsters. Which, not great, but it was necessary. They didn't have another option at that point. But trillions dead. Civilizations and planets ruined. It is now after the war. 10 years after the war. And a bunch of people have made their way to the planet Polvo, sometimes known as Dirt, to try to pick up the pieces and start rebuilding some semblance of a civilization. Our players are settled in Warframe Yard. And let me pull up our map here of that, which is actually built in the ruins of the crashed USF Defiant, which was the flagship of previously of the Federation fleet, but then became the flagship of the Chorister fleet when everyone aboard was taken over by the song. Then, once it was freed, it crashed onto the surface of Polvo, and the salvagers who raced to make use of its valuable components also kind of settled into this nicely contained area and started to build. Now there's various industries here, families moving in, trying to build a community. And there are other communities around that you get along with or don't. But in the meantime, let's have each of you briefly introduce your character.
Hi, I'm playing Calvin Fallon. He is a scientist, physicist, engineer. I give him technology or a task to create technology, and he'll make something. Hopefully, it's right. And he acted as in the war. He was part of the research team that developed Tormentas, and that that doesn't sit well with him.
All right, Lee?
And
Oh. We got, go ahead, Lee.
All right. I am playing Epsilon, who was a belter before the war. And she was also part of a resistance movement against one of the massive corporations called Mars Corp, a movement called Bradbury Weeps. I got that name right this time. the During the war, she fought on the Ort line during the push into the galaxy. She's one of only 7,500 survivors of that.
Nobilis?
My character is Sasha. He's a sentinel in the war who focused on reconnaissance, behind the lines type stuff. And in the aftermath, he is one of the scouts who goes out and finds wrecks that are worthy of salvage and sends the messages back to let people know where they are. Usually holds on to them while the teams arrive. And before the war, he was a marshal in the belt, one of the kind of knight-errant sorts who went to various communities to help sort out disputes and criminal things in a much more informal way than law enforcement's usually done.
Last but not least, Paul?
I'm playing Alan Cross. Before the war, he was a pilot for Mars Corp. Yes, the same Mars Corp. During the war, he fought in the Battle of the Ort line and is one of the other 7,500 people who survived that, along with Epsilon. And after the war here on Polva, he is still a pilot. He's still flying, still trying to find his place now that the war is over.
All right, so last time we began with a dispute over the furrow, which is the remnants of the trail left behind as the Defiant skidded across the ground. Now it has flooded and is one of the primary sources of water for the people of Warframe Yard. But it's also a convenient dumping ground for people who have things that need to be dumped. And that has caused some conflict with a family of Ursa, who are sort of humanoid bear-like aliens. And they are trying to grow some Ursan honeyberries, but they seem to be perhaps being poisoned by the chemical contamination. And so there was a dispute early on with Eno, one of the Ursan, and Cohen, a salvager, who, over whether or not an oil drip pan was about to be dumped into the water. And then, likewise, one of the other things that came out there was that the honeyberries had been attracting a native species of insect named hummers, which are basically like big, clumsy, blue bumblebee-like things. They don't really bite or sting or anything. They're just kind of make an annoying noise. But they seem to have been attracted by the honeyberries, or at least that's the claim from Cohen. But in the meantime, where you have some of these orphan kids of the war, nicknamed Jetsam, throwing rocks and otherwise tormenting some of the hummers that had been making their way in through the vents. And they accidentally agitated the hummers into starting an electrical fire. And then in the process of putting out this electrical fire, it was determined that King, a local scientist, had a laboratory with a secret experiment that he wasn't showing to anybody. And when he was finally ousted from his office in order to try to put out the fire, he appears to be infected with the song. Because otherwise you'd have to be real dumb in this society to just randomly talk in a sing-songy voice. Does not fly.
Remind me who was there when King started singing.
So
Who was in that scene? I've forgotten.
right,
Alan
so
was.
yeah, so Alan was there, and then I think that there was just a
Epsilon.
handful of other. Epsilon was up in the vents, putting out the fire
Yeah.
when that specific thing happened. But there was a handful of other miscellaneous people because part of the reason that Alan had run over there was because someone was saying we have to, Alan, or rather King has not come out of his lab yet, and we're about to flood the airlines to that laboratory with, furrow water. So I think as we begin this next scene, we're not picking up right where we left off. But I'm going to say that some enterprising individual who happened to be present right there had the quick thinking to immediately shove King back into his laboratory and slam the door. We are in the hallway here. The hoses have turned on, and so now there's a lot of strange noises throughout the system. The ship, you guys are all in the runs, which is these huge areas that used to be conduits for all sorts of things when the ship was in operation, and now are basically big hallways. But there's the water and flushing through the vents in order to put out the fire. But that has also created agitation from the Hummers, and there appear to have been many, many of them in the lines. And so those are now starting to come out from vents all over the place as they seek to escape the water. In the meantime, I think there's been a couple of people who have run off to try to get the important people who might need to know about this. But it's also a valid question, perhaps. Is this what now, right? And I don't want to start the scene with the question, but I'm just basically there is a tension in the air of obviously just slamming the guy back into his own laboratory is not the solution to this problem, and everyone is now standing around unclear on what should happen.
I have been thinking about this since last week.
Okay.
Sasha actually does know what to do.
Okay.
Um,
So are you
yeah.
offering this as a tilt?
Yeah, because what I was thinking now, I'm not sure how to fit it into the scene structure.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask for suggestions on this. But Sasha's just going to open the door and shoot him. Just shoot him in the head. And then, because this could very well be Tormenta, pack his weapons up and prepare to leave the community. Because if he's got Tormenta, then he can't be here in the city, at least right away, until some determination can be used. So, the kind of standard thing is if somebody shows signs of either the song or Tormenta, you kill them, and then their executioner is exiled.
So one of the things that I will offer, I'm not telling you that you didn't do any of that, because I think that is actually a great tilt. It's basically as an inciting incident to change what's happening. That's a good one.
Right.
So we're not even going to mess around with like you having a role to do it or anything.
Right.
But one thing I will note just as a world building thing, and we can maybe talk about if we want to change this, but per the book, it's not necessarily a thing that you immediately have to kill anyone who shows any signs, because after all, that's what Tormenta did, right? Was it pushed the song out of lots of people, right? And there is actually treatment that can be done for people with low level infections. It can take long. It's not fun, but it can happen.
Oh, okay. I did not catch that there was a way to.
We didn't really talk about it. So,
Okay.
but the thing is, the concern is that the more advanced the infection, the more difficult and less likely the success of treatment is.
And the more likely the people treating him will catch it themselves.
Right, yeah. Basically, one of the big treatments is that you basically just lock them in a room all by themselves and give them no access to anybody else for a period of time.
Yeah.
But
which is kind of what my exile thing was.
yeah,
Was
but the thing
that-
is that someone who is clearly speaking in a sing-songy voice and acting actively strange is relatively advanced.
Okay.
and
Then my action stands.
Right. So I just wanted to establish that as some
Yeah.
grounding, like that it's not necessarily inappropriate. It's certainly taking a bold action, and
Yeah.
I don't think there are many who would judge you for it. Maybe
Right.
his friends or something, like that. But that's I just wanted to have the context clear,
Right.
especially as it's possible, I don't know, that there might be other people around who are going to have signs of one or the other. So,
Yeah.
That's what I've been thinking about the last week. Okay, this one guy has the song for sure. Who else has it?
okay.
And then thinking way too much with our local events, thinking about contact tracing, like how can we find the other people who might be infected and deal with them too? I didn't know that Shasta was going to shoot the guy, but I figured justice was
so-
going to be relatively swift on him.
Let's
one way or
not
the
let's not get ahead of ourselves too much. Let's
Okay.
but let's run with the tilt that Nobilis has offered, which I think is great. Which is, you.
Okay.
were-
Can I describe the event?
Well, hold
Or-
on. Yeah,
Okay.
yes, you can, but give me just a moment.
Okay.
Let's first establish because because you weren't present initially, right? We have to build into
Yeah.
this that as I mentioned, a couple of people have run off to start telling whoever they think they needs to know, right? So I think that means that the information is kind of out there. It's a little it's too late
Yeah.
to keep it entirely contained.
Yeah.
That this is
Sasha
occurring.
hears about it.
Right, and so Sasha hears about it, and comes and we can
Basically
deal with,
just walks past everybody there who's discussing and talking and is he too is it all this kind of stuff. He just walks past all of them, walks up to the door, goes inside, there's a gunshot, he comes out, he says, I'm going. I could use a couple of people with me. Being alone isn't great out there, but I
so
need to go.
the only reason I'm stopping you is because we still need to establish the question, and it's easy
Yeah.
to just
Well,
get moving on the scene.
I wanted to stop it there to go with to figure out the question. I was just going to stop
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the most obvious question is, well, who's going to go? Is anybody going to go with him? And if so, who?
Well, that's one question. I'm going to offer that other possible things to explore are: is this limited to that guy? How would you find that out? What other problems might be happening here? What was that guy building? All of these things are information. So is anyone going to leave with him? We could do that, but I think in some ways that takes the action away from
Yeah.
like that. If we said the scene was Sasha and a bunch of people leave, that doesn't really drive the rest of the narrative, right?
Okay.
Which is not to say that can't happen, but it's a question of like, is that where we want the scene to go? What do we want this scene to resolve? And for that matter, good suggestions in the chat. If the whole reason for leaving is Sasha is concerned that they may have Tormenta, do they?
I feel like one way or the other, any question about song or Tormenta, would find its find its way to Calvin because of his work.
Well, so specifically, Nobilis, because you picked the tilt, you
Mm-hmm.
pick someone to choose the question, and whoever you pick will go with what they want it to be.
Um, uh, Paul.
Okay, so I mean, as Christiana pointed out, there's a bunch of questions to answer. The question I'm most interested in is how the prevalence of the song infection within the community. That's what I want to explore. How bad is it?
Right.
Is it just this guy, or do we have a major outbreak on our hands?
Yeah, that's good. And so, and as always, just as a reminder for everyone, as we begin with the scene, because we can decide who everyone, because this is potentially like a big scene where like it might even be that a crowd is going to form, right? Shortly. So we'll have everyone decide whose characters is there, and it could even be everybody. But what I'll also just remind everyone as we move forward with the scene is, keep in mind what your beliefs are, and because the goal, in a meta sense, is to have the scene challenge those beliefs, so you guys can get points of insight, and we can use those game mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So who is there?
I don't think I ever left.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have left, so I'm
Yeah.
I'm there for sure.
Sasha's obviously
Sasha.
there.
I mean, it depends on what the scope of the scene is, right? But
I think we're beginning right there in the hallway.
right. So if we're beginning right there, then Sasha's definitely there
Okay.
as he comes out of the room.
I think. How long does the water? Once the electrical fire is flushed, then Epsilon would definitely be backing up and showing up, and so she would eventually be there.
All right. Yeah, so I feel like a little bit of time has gone by, because obviously Sasha wasn't immediately there and has come in the time
Right.
since. So I think it's reasonable that Epsilon could have come out of the vents and followed the sounds of, maybe even the sound of gunfire.
So, and Calvin would have would be there because expertise. And so that's everybody.
All right. So, okay. That's fine. So that's basically audience is all me. No,
Oh boy.
that's all right. So everyone has kind of followed that sound. Sasha, you're still standing there. I think the people who were right there around in the hallway, kind of by definition, were the people who were kind of a little bit, in analysis paralysis, where they weren't sure what to do, and then you just kind of pushed your way through. So they're kind of all just standing there in shock. But other people are starting to arrive.
What did I see when I was in there in his lab?
Well, so it was a retrofitted crew quarters room, I think, that had clearly had a workspace cleared, and this guy was working on some sort of electrical machinery project. But it's also true that as you open the door, a couple of inches of dirty water spill out, because the room has been sprayed through the air vent with water to put out the fire.
Yeah.
And so he was right there looking pretty calm, and I think as you opened the door, he had opened his mouth just as though he was about to say something or maybe sing something.
Yep. No, I didn't let him.
Yeah. So I think now you just, like, right between the eyes, he went down.
Yep.
He is laying on the floor now with blood pooling out into the water,
Water.
which is spilling out into the hallway.
Okay. Are there like a lot of Hummers in the room?
Yeah, there are a fair amount around, and in fact, actually, I think the sound is kind of almost everywhere because a lot of they've been coming out of the vents all over the place as they tried to escape the water, and so there's a few here and there like that you'll see like dead floating in the water or places that they're kind of buzzing around in the hallways, and it's just that sound that bzzz, it's kind of everywhere. It's pretty aggravating, actually.
So I think Calvin kind of just hurries up and says, What? What? I said Dr. King was. I had the song?
It sure sounds
Yep.
like it.
Well, where is he at? Is he isolated in there?
Not anymore.
What do you mean?
We did what we do when there's an advanced case. He was singing. So it's time for me to pack my things. I'll be fine.
Wait,
I-
why are you leaving?
Because I might have Tormenta.
I
I
would.
don't think anybody
Um,
should leave.
As soon as
Sorry.
he says, I might have Tormenta, several of the other just randos that were kind of standing around kind of get wide-eyed and start, like, backing away.
Yeah.
I would hold off on that. If you would isolate yourself here, be willing to isolate yourself here. There's some tests I can run, but what was he doing? What was he doing in there?
He was doing some sort of experiment with the Hummers.
Yeah, it looks like there were a ton of Hummers up in the air vents, especially centered around where his office was, or where this room is. I mean, and I couldn't even see through them. There were so many.
I think I need to take a look at what he was of what's left of his experiment. This could be bad.
Okay. You going to look at his experiment, or are you going to stop me from going and packing?
I'm
Well,
going to stop you from going and packing.
Okay.
Yeah.
there, I'm sure, if nothing else, you can be, be in your room for now. Yeah, but
So one other bit of
need to-
world building that I'm gonna offer to everybody, just so that these are things that your characters would know, is that by and large, most of the way you detect either Tormenta or the song is kind of just behavioral. But if you have a sophisticated enough facility, it literally can be like tested for. But generally speaking, that doesn't come up as much because, usually by the time you've brought someone to a facility like that, it's either obvious or someone
Yeah.
has done something else already, right? It is important to know that there is an organization known as the Peacekeepers who on Polvo have made it essentially their duty to protect everyone from Song and Tormenta infections. And everyone agrees that's good and necessary. There is occasionally discussion on how draconian they actually need to be. Because on the one hand, as Sasha just demonstrated, sometimes you need to take bold, decisive action and worry about collateral damage later. But sometimes also that means that the people who are collateral damage don't get a say in that, right? So there is that organization. And so if they were to hear that there was an advanced infection, they would almost certainly send a unit at least. and what they would do about it depends on how severe the infection is, and that is, they would, take their own counsel as far as what to do about it at that point. So that's just another piece of information to know.
But if this is something that Calvin can test for,
Well,
then
yeah, I don't have the facilities to do a sophisticated test, but I know a few tricks to spot early infections. But I think first I need to look in there at what the machine is. It was a machine, right?
Well, yeah, he was building a device of some kind.
Well, I asking that in character.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, so one of the randos goes, yeah, he was building some kind of a device of some kind.
Yeah, I gonna kind of just, yeah.
Yeah, I was there when he pulled that thing out of the wreck, but he wouldn't show me what it was. He said he had to wait until it was finished first.
Until it's finished.
which wreck?
What? Yeah, what type of wreck was it from?
I mean, it was something from the Chorister fleet. I mean, do you think that that's what got him?
There is a chance. Yeah, and
Oh gosh,
Shouldn't
I'm
we
kind of
just
glad he didn't show
take
me now.
Shouldn't we just take a blaster and atomize it? Or at least blow it into bits? Better safe than sorry.
A straightforward, direct approach to the problem.
we need, if it is a vector like I suspect, we need to at least see if it could be reversed, or what it was tuned to. If it might,
So you think it might have been
Hummers, it
spread-
might be tuned to them. I mean, it
we
it
need
could
to
be
find out who else besides him has the song here. Is maybe that device broadcasts it or amplifies it? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe he's the only one. That's why I look at
Sasha.
Sasha. Thank you. That's Sasha. That's why you can't leave yet. We need to know what the extent of this infection is before anybody goes anywhere. Even if you're trying to protect ourselves from Tormenta, which is a laudable goal, we need to know how bad things are first before anybody goes carrying off anywhere.
You hear some voices approaching from down the hall, and you see, turning down at the other end of this long corridor, you see what looks to be a small group of people that includes both Sina the runner, the head of the data mining operation, and Farah the tinkerer, who are approaching, obviously looking concerned.
Oh, good. Two of our three community leaders. Excellent.
I think
Oh, crap.
if you don't do anything to like if there's any sort of like, oh, hurry, do something before they get here, then we can do that, but otherwise they're on their way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they stomp up. Farah immediately kind of glances through the door and sees the remains of King, and kind of gives solemn nod of acknowledgement to Sasha. In the meantime, Sina, I think, turns to Epsilon and just says, "What is happening here?"
Electrical fire flushed out more than bees. Or more than the Hummers. We had an electrical fire out here. One of the kids saw it and came to get us. I went up to put it out. They started clearing the hallways. Evidently somebody, this King guy, had the song. Pretty bad. He was singing.
I think Farah, kind of half under her breath, but you can still all hear it, gives, I think, to follow the book's example, instead of trying to on the spot come up with a word that is an awful swear, she gives an awful swear. Space swear. I think at that point, Cena turns to her and says, "Do you think any of those scrappers of yours are going to snitch on us to the Peacekeepers?" And Farah just kind of says, "I don't know. Maybe they should."
That might be a more interesting question than what we had.
Did did
Well, it depends on
Yeah.
knowing the extent of the infection is an important aspect of
Yeah.
what you would
yeah,
want to do about the
what-
Peacekeepers, right?
Yeah.
All right. I think for this particular thing, Sasha's immediate instinct is to go pack, but his skills as far as things like investigation and hope and relationships and memetics
Yeah.
Go,
tactics
go!
Yeah.
Well,
and reconnaissance
So
are
here-
probably and given that he also has no strain,
Yeah.
he's probably the best person to do this job.
Right.
So
Well-
what I've been waiting for is someone to actually say that to him.
Yeah, well,
but-
I was just about there with Farah, but let's just do that right now.
Yeah.
I think Farah sees the look in your eye, and just kind of goes to pull you aside, just like pointing you into the corner a little bit, and is just kind of whispering to you, is like, "Was it bad? What,
He was singing.
Tell me."
He had locked himself in his room and was doing weird experiments. He was a loner. He didn't have any people. He didn't live with anybody else. And as far as I know, I mean, this is the first I've heard of the guy. He's not exactly the life of the party around here.
Sasha,
So-
I'm going to let you in on something here that will hopefully help you to understand how bad this is. Everybody knows about the Fort Bly chasing our scrappers off of that wreck recently, right? Like, the piece that keeps getting left out of that conversation is that they think we can't handle the risk of Song or Tormenta infections. And that's why they need to clear them out first. If it gets out that we had an infection get out of control on our watch, we're done for. They're going to clean us out. They're just going to take over our whole operation.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying we need to take care of this in-house before they get here. So
Well, that's pretty clear.
I need you here.
I see.
Now, obviously, if you feel like you're going to suddenly start eating your own flesh or something, let me know ahead of time, maybe. But otherwise, I need you here.
All right, but I want someone with me.
Yeah, I mean,
At least one.
sure. Yeah, no, I mean, we
Yeah.
can. I think this is going to be an all hands on deck type of deal.
All right. All right. All right. I respect you. If you think that's best, that's what I'll do. And maybe I'll have my sabbatical later.
All right. Well,
No,
you can let me know. Like if you think it's getting you and we need to do something about it.
I mean, what am I going to say? Whether it's got me or not, I'm going to say the same thing. But I just if it makes your mind easier, then yeah.
I'm
this
just
was
saying,
not-
Sasha, we go way back, and if we're dealing with Song or Tormenta, I need someone who I know
All right.
Because
All right.
strangers, who can say what's their deal?
You want me to head up the investigation?
I think we need you on it.
All right, then I'll do that.
I'll be running interference if I can to try to, give you some breathing room for it. But find out if this is one guy or a whole choir.
Right. All right. Well, let's start talking to people.
All right. In the meantime, I think Cena has probably got you, Epsilon, and has been, first of all, I think, gives you a little bit of a nod, like a nod of appreciation for you climbing up into the vents and like doing what needs to be done. Like that's the way to go,
Yeah.
right? That's how we do it. And we're going to need some of that initiative here. They're saying that he was making something to send a signal. We need to find out if he sent something. So I think what's his Calvin, that guy.
Yeah.
And hey, you.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
You work for Talos, right? You do the electrical stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Figure out what the hell that thing was.
Gladly.
And so in the meantime, that's kind of where that's been happening. I think more people are starting to gather around, though. Like there's like starting to be like a crowd of people like looky-loos, like, well, there's a fire and then I hear a gunshot. Hey, what are all those people doing over there? Hey, why are there Hummers everywhere?
So I'm gonna put on my my martial air and tell everyone, all right, we've had a big incident here. We're gonna need to talk to people. Everybody back to your homes. We're most interested in anyone who knew King. Anyone talked to him recently.
Okay. I'm going to suggest here that this is a conflict to try to manage
Yes.
this crowd.
Sure.
Right? So in this context, let's pull up your character sheet here on the screen. I think that we definitely have song involvement.
Yep.
So there's going to be 3 vector dice. And although there are a lot of people around, this is mostly the crowd of looky-loos. And there's named characters around, but this is mostly about the crowd and their behavior. So I think that I'm only going to have just the 1 threat die at the moment, because this is mostly just, there doesn't seem to be immediate, imminent danger right now. So 4 dice arrayed against you.
Okay. I'm going to take dice for. I've got the 1 that I start with, right? And I'm going to take 1 for investigation,
Yeah,
1 for relationships,
yeah, I think that works.
1 for empathy, 1 for tactics,
Yeah, I buy that. I buy all these.
and 1 for reconnaissance.
Sure. Yeah.
So
And
that's.
Disputes?
I
I don't think
would
there's a dispute
for
here, but-
Belcher work.
Yeah, I think you both just suggested disputes, and I think especially since we have lots of others, we don't have to stretch so hard for disputes. It's kind of a dispute, but really what it is mostly right now is a bunch of people rubbernecking, as opposed to arguing about anything specific. So let's go ahead and leave it with the 5d6. One thing that I want to toss in
6.
here.
6 dice because I get 1 plus
yes,
the 5
yeah,
attribute.
you're right.
dimension.
You're right. Yes. So, but one extra piece that I want to toss in here. Let's talk about your conviction. Family, including found family, is paramount now. That I feel like we could make a case that applies. In which case, you would get another die for that.
I'll say that's true. I think.
I mean, you're doing this as a special favor when you were going to do something else because of your oldest friend.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
So 7 dice. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing to mention, this is something that could have maybe come into play last session, but we didn't, is the way it works when you want to help another player is if they need to re-roll something, your character can take the strain instead of them. So, because obviously 2 of our 4 here already got a bunch of strain, I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
no.
like, that's an example of something that we could do if we needed to. So, all right, so you've got a 15 to beat.
Oh, yuck.
That bad?
I'm rolling physical dice here.
Sure, that's fine.
I rolled three 2s and 2 1s,
God.
but also a 6 and a 3. So it's 9, 10, 11, 13, 15, 17.
Okay, so that's still a success.
Yeah.
So I think with that, well, so in fact, because you succeed, you get to narrate how it goes.
People listen to Sasha's instructions. He they kind of nod along and head back home, and he kind of it's not such a gigantic number of people that he doesn't because this is the kind of thing he deals with. As they're dispersing, he takes out a little notebook and starts writing down the names of the people who were there. But after that, he just starts going house to house along the way. And
Well, so here's a question too. Do you tell them to go back to like their quarters? Do you tell them to just leave?
Tells them to go back to their quarters, and that he'll be talking to each of them individually.
Yeah, so I think Farah will maybe kind of also say like, general lockdown. What do you?
Yeah, let's seal off this area, and also someone check through whoever's checking through his stuff in there, see who he might have contact with outside this neighborhood.
On it.
All right. So
I'll mark strain.
Okay. Yeah, for the success, correct?
Yep.
And so we obviously are still in the same scene because we're looking for evidence still of how extensive the infection is, right? So, so let's. It sounds like we maybe have Epsilon and Calvin going in to check out this guy's lab. What is Alan doing?
Well, I think we skipped a step.
Did
Don't we mark growth if
at the
his
end of
beliefs were...
at the end of the scene?
It's
Not
okay.
every
All right.
conflict. It's when the scene is resolved.
Right. Got it. Okay.
What's Alan up to? It sounds like we've got Sasha who's sort of leading this charge and is maybe going to start like interrogating people, and he expressed the desire to have someone with him. So we could have an NPC with him, or what do you think?
I mean, unless Sasha has an objection, Alan would normally gravitate to that role because because we have the other 2 PCs investigating the room, so Alan's just like standing there wanting to help, and so if Sasha needs help, then
Alan's fine.
All right. So let's first though focus on
The
Calvin.
characters with the 2 greatest amount of strain doing this important job.
Yeah.
we have the least. Oops.
Well, hey, that's how it kind of worked out. So, but let's follow them first. So you're heading into this laboratory. How do you each feel about stepping over King's body with the hole in the forehead to get in there?
Well, that was a clean shot.
And I've never liked blood.
Okay.
But
So I think. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
go ahead.
As you enter the room, as I mentioned, it is It's pretty much what you would expect for one of these salvager slash scientist researcher dudes who occupies a not insignificant portion of the Warframe yard population. Which is that he is got some sort of a project area that he's set up on a workbench. In this room, he also has kind of a bare bones, messy living area. Everything is kind of flooded and sprayed with dirty water, including what is obviously some sort of a complicated electrical device. That it was his current focus. Also worth noting, there are a lot of dead Hummers floating in the water.
Are there any living ones, like flying around?
Yeah, a handful, but not as many. But you would guess though that that might just be because the water came through here, so it carried a lot of the dead ones, with it, whether they were in here before or not.
Okay. So, yeah, take a spread a glance at them. See, it's like, are they acting odd? But if they're not, then just go to the device. See if try and see if you can find any notes or anything. Maybe can get a clue to this function from there, and just start kind of looking at what it is and try and determine what it is.
I think Epsilon's first stop is going to actually be the vent, just to try and look through and take a quick glance to see if it's cleared out. More than likely, the water shorted out whatever this device was, but just to make sure they're not still congregating like they were. And just a quick peek through. She's not going to bother taking off the vent cover or anything, but before seeing where his personal communications devices and his computers are.
All right, so here's the thing. This is not D&D, so I'm not having you roll like an investigation check exactly, right?
Yeah.
But what you are both doing together is essentially searching this room and trying to establish, so essentially set a goal for this, for this investigation. And then the opposition goal in this context is, you don't know. It's a mystery.
Okay. I think the goal would be to find any plans about the device, what was it intended for, and any communications that he might have sent to other people about the device. I think that would be Epsilon's goal.
Okay.
As far as hacking into his computer.
And Calvin's goal would be to figure out the purpose of the device and whether or not it is related to the song.
All right. So, what I will offer in this context is that for both of you, because you're at 4 strain, if you get to 6, that's bad. If you succeed on a conflict, you get 1 more. So if you take 1 to succeed and then get the 1 for succeeding, someone will die. Now, obviously your character doesn't know that, but this is starting to be a very high pressure situation for the two of you. I think the droning of the Hummers in here, the dead presence of Researcher King in the water. This is intense in here. And so
I would like to point out mechanically, that one person can take the strain and the other can take the success.
That's
So
true.
it's not. So it's not. It's
But not
taking
if
strain
you
for
are
this.
each doing your
Yeah.
own conflict roll.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you both decide together that you're going to do one, which I think is reasonable, I don't think I'm going to force you to do two different rolls. We can say this is one roll, but it has to be one of you sort of leading, and the other one can offer up the help strain if needed, right?
Okay. So we need kind of a unified goal to do one thing. So maybe a unified goal between the two of us would be to find out as much about the device as we can.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I am abstracting your whole investigation. So this can include looking through his stuff for a journal. It can look through papers, contact list, um, you know, uh, blood scrawled on the walls saying I did it. I mean, everything that there is to check is being included in this. So, so in this context, though, this is a tough check. Or okay, that's just kind of how the dice work, because essentially, I'm going to tell you right now, what's at threat is a handful of people. So hang on, let me pull up the way that it assigns the the dice pools. So, hang on. Sorry, I'm pulling up the. There we go. So threat. If a large group of people are in danger, add 4 device to your pool. And I'm telling you that's the case. But then the vector dice. Right now, as far as impact to your investigation, there's only minimal influence. So there's only one vector die right now, but this is a serious threat. So I'm rolling 5 die. And so which one of you wants to sort of be the person rolling? And given that we're encompassing everything that you guys might check here in the room, obviously I'm not going to be crazy about letting you pick whatever, but go ahead.
I think David should, because he can get the most dice. He can basically get all 7.
Okay.
Okay.
You can take history for your origin. You can do tormenta. You can do analysis. You can do research. You can do scientists, and you can do experiments.
Okay. Yeah.
So, with that, if you roll the dice, then if you need to re-roll something, I'll take the strain.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll
So I rolled my threat dice and got 16. That's the number to beat.
76. Oh, lots of 5s and 6s, please. Rolling the dice, rolling the dice.
Are you rolling it here in roll 20?
Yeah, it's.
All right. I don't see it coming up, but
Yeah. Maybe.
you want me to?
Maybe.
I can do a roll for you, or
Well, I had some physical dice. I'm gonna go and.
okay. Oh wait,
Yes,
no, there it is. There it is. Just popped up.
Oh.
So with 76, you actually rolled pretty well. Got a 24.
But
Bye.
only the 5 and the 6 count, so we got an 11.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Thank you. I can't believe I almost forgot that. Yeah. So, yeah, only the 5 and the 6 count because of all that strain you got. So it's an
right.
11. You're still looking for 16.
All right. So Mark
But
and strain.
You're going ahead and marking strain.
Yep.
Okay. Here's, and I'm rolling. Well, the other 5.
Yeah.
And there's another 6, making 17.
Okay.
This is a
okay,
success.
excellent. So you are both now at 5 strain.
Yeah.
Thank you, game mechanics.
Yes. But you have succeeded. And here's actually where I'm a little bit like, I don't want to diminish what Sasha and Alan were going to do. But I feel like it makes sense that you guys were going to do what you're going to do. But this success is essentially going to answer the question of the scene.
Right.
So what you find is that the device that he was building had it in general principle, it's a short range transmitter that looks like it's primarily designed to not do a great amount of distance, but to be able to penetrate anything within the ship, which is sometimes a problem.
Oh.
You guys know that like there are parts of the Defiant that it's hard to get a signal from outside, right? This looks like it's designed to try to penetrate everything within this relatively short range. But it also has some components on it that at first are unfamiliar. Gosh. No, okay, I guess Calvin would know, and this is all part of your success, is the parts that look strange to you. For a moment, you're looking at them and thinking, like, what is that design? I know I've seen it somewhere. It's not any of the stuff we're usually working with, but I know I've seen it somewhere. Where was it? And then you remember, oh, this was part of that shipment of stuff that Talus got from Daedalus Station.
Oh.
Oh, crap.
Dum, dum.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
But as part of this investigation, Epsilon, you do find his lab notebook, and although there are lots of parts of it that seem like they're ruined by the water damage, you find parts where what it is talking about is the frequencies of the Hummer's drone is only suitable during their daylight activity phase.
So he's going to piggyback the song off of the Hummer's frequency and use them to spread it throughout the ship.
Yeah, that you believe that that's the case.
Out of character, yay, I read your mind. In character, oh, holy expletive, expletive, expletive.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, but the additional thing that is scary about all of that is that these components that look strange and you're not sure what they do or exactly how they work, you know that they were part of the experimental gear that Talus just got recently from Daedalus Station.
So
Yeah.
either he filched it off of the shipment of what was supposed to be going on, or Daedalus Station has an infection and it's spreading to us.
Yeah.
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 So I think the answer. Oh, you know what? How about this? Well, I'm going to ask you guys how you feel about it. we could decide that that now is the answer to the question of like, what is the threat? How serious is the infection? And the answer more or less would be, you've got a lead as to at least one other person who might be, or you would want to ask at least, because Talus didn't show up with Farah and Cena. And you know what the threat is, but you also know that the sun went down about an hour ago, and the logbook says that the Hummers are suitable when in the daylight phase. So this device that is here in the room is, deactivated. If it hadn't been ruined by the water, you certainly can disassemble it.
Yeah.
But you don't know if that's all there is.
Yeah.
So
Did they find one of the things that Sasha had asked them to look into was his contacts with other people and who needs to be investigated.
Yeah, so I think that the only indication of anyone that he worked with on this project was Talus, who he got components from.
Okay.
But
And,
here's the question: we could, a potential element of the question of the scene was like, are there any other random people? I'm just going to go ahead and say no. Let's go
Okay.
ahead and complete this scene, and we
Okay.
can certainly evaluate more about what's going on and how we're responding. Because it's true that there might be other people with infections of various things that could still be captured, but we've found basically what's the primary deal with this guy, right?
Right.
Okay. So I'm the only audience mode, so basically I am the arbiter of whose beliefs got challenged, but I'm certainly open to hearing what you guys think about it. So
I think both of Sasha's beliefs came into play.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Large settlements are dangerous, certainly did, right? Just this idea
Yep.
of there's lots of people, and with so many people, who knows who's safe and what they are going to do,
Right.
and people are running off doing things out of control.
Right.
But then also, tell me about what Sasha was sort of feeling about the lone wolves starve belief.
The king was a loner. He didn't have a lot of friends and associates. He had nobody who was able to say, "Hey, do you think this thing you're working on maybe not such a great idea?" He had nobody. He had no relationships to protect him from the infection growing while he was on his own.
Yep, great. So that means that you'll get 2 points of insight, which you had one already, correct? So that will bring you to 3. So you're going to get to have a moment of discovery. And then let's talk about Alan. So
Okay, so recreation didn't come into play here, I don't think, because I mean, building a device wasn't really recreation, but Hova must be unified. I mean, a coordinated response to the threat of Dr. King and participating in that. I think that supported his belief, and as counterpoint to the whole lone wolf starve, like because he's not unified with the community, he got left off on his own and started building a device to bring the song to everybody.
I am going to contradict you.
No, okay.
I think his belief in recreation weakens our community would be eroded.
well,
Because if this guy had ever done something besides working, maybe he wouldn't have gotten in trouble.
so I could see that, but it's a question of whether or not that would occur to Alan, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm on board with the idea if you, Paul, would like to have that be part of what Alan is thinking about in reflecting on all of this idea of like, maybe he hears people
he was a
muttering
workaholic.
about, yeah, like,
He was. I see your
yeah.
point, Nobilis. I
So-
think it does kind of point against his belief.
I will allow you to do that with the caveat that I want you, as you kind of proceed, to be consciously kind of exploring that element of the whole thing. like it didn't really come up in the scene, but it could be something you could think about afterwards, right? But I just want to see that happen, right?
Okay.
So yeah, we can go ahead and give you 2 as well. How about Epsilon?
I think Epsilon only probably gets 1, and although you could, I don't know if you could make that second argument about individuality being freedom, because this guy took individuality to, or at least being an individual, to kind of an extreme.
Right. Well, I mean,
well-
it doesn't have to support that belief. It could challenge
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
His freedom to work on whatever the hell he wanted without anybody knowing what it was put the
Yeah.
community at danger.
Yeah. And then MarsCorp is evil. It's like, well, he never, all he did was work. And that's what MarsCorp is all about. But
I think the Mars Corp one is a stretch. I think it's unfortunate in some ways that you picked a belief there that hasn't come up as much, but that's all right. We can make it happen. So,
no, it's fine. It's one of those things, and I put a miscellaneous dot here, and it's driving me nuts. No, but I can only see getting 1.
Yeah.
Personally.
So you'll still be at 2. How about Calvin?
Well, I mean, I think I'm not sure. Knowledge
I'm
must
going to
be
offer,
shared.
first of all,
Yeah.
knowledge must be shared. He was keeping his project a secret, and that's why nobody intervened before it was too late, and now he's
True,
dead.
yeah.
If he had told people what was going on and told them all about how great the stuff he was working on was, and if he was enthusiastically sharing that with everybody and telling them all about how exciting his new project is, he'd be alive right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as lives are not currency, I mean,
Well,
I
mean, I don't want to, like,
Seems clear to me.
Sasha was going to essentially throw his life away.
Well, that, and also he just immediately, without even talking to King, just bam, Yeah, it's not currency exactly, but it was certainly making him disposable. As the idea of protecting the larger community means he's, we absolutely kill him. That's what lives are not currency is all about, right?
Yeah.
So you get another 2, which, just your marks on there look weird to me, but I think that puts you at 4. Because you're putting just like a one thin line.
It's supposed to be a very large dot, like from the freehand drawing tool, extra large, and on my screen it looks like the white is filled.
Okay, well, weird.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, that's fine. So what that means is, though, that 3 of you get a moment of discovery. So let's talk a little bit about moments of discovery.
New mechanics.
So this is an opportunity, first of all, for you to y'all to reduce some stress, right? Strain.
Yay.
Yeah. So what we'll start with Sasha's, because just that's the order we did that in. But what you do when you get a moment of discovery is you get to ask a question of one of the other players. It's really like a player-to-player question. But then we have a short scene that doesn't have to be a role-played scene, but it could be. Or it could just be like a gentle narration of something. But it's basically you, Nobilis, get to find out something about one of the other characters. And then we have a short scene to explore that question. And then you and they remove 1 point of strain.
Oh, so okay, so I see. So I can actually use this to reduce epsilon strain.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, this changes the strain economy for me a
Yeah,
great deal.
definitely.
Well, and one of the other things that's cool, I think, about this mechanic is that this little scene, it says, consider using flashbacks, inner monologues, montages, and so on. So we don't have to have a scene where Sasha and Epsilon have a conversation that's in continuity with the timeline we've just established when that doesn't make sense because they weren't even in the same place. Instead,
Right.
what it can be is Nobilis asking Lee to say, let's explore this aspect of Epsilon, and then we can decide how to show that.
Okay.
But Lee is away from the computer again.
Okay. When Lee gets back, I've figured out a question to ask.
Well, you could also do Calvin because Calvin's got 5 strain as well.
But he's getting a moment of discovery and he's going to lose it.
Well, yeah, but you only lose 1 point of strain.
Oh well. Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I thought of one for Epsilon. So how about if we do that after
Okay.
Lee
Well,
gets
we'll
back
come back.
and we do somebody
So we'll
else's?
skip and do Paul's first then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
again,
yeah. Okay. So I think following what Nobilis was going on with the strain economy and trying to mini max this, it would make sense for me to ask David a question.
Okay.
Okay, so
yeah. About another player character's thoughts, history, or relationships. Could just be what they're thinking or feeling about something specific. It could be remembering something about what it was about the Tormenta experiments that were so traumatic, or it could be anything, but it should be something that explores Calvin's character a little bit.
I'm curious of his academic life before the war, before Tormentor, before anyone ever heard of the song. What was that like? What was a day in the life of Dr. Fouline? It is a doctor. Yeah, you are a doctor, correct?
Well,
Probably.
Well, Dr. Fouline's life before things went south.
All right. What year was this? What year is this set? Like 20?
I mean,
10 years after the war. So
yes, yeah. So
like century.
Oh well, I mean, I honestly,
Like
Yeah,
25?
that never says.
there is a timeline in the book, but I would honestly say I don't worry about it.
Well, it's okay. Anyway.
I mean, okay, so look, I will pull up
Okay,
where
okay, 20
it's like
2200,
2244. Yeah.
Okay.
That was when Tormenta was unleashed, and so it's 10 years later now.
So, what was the day in the life of Dr. Fouline?
yeah.
Like, well, when I, yeah. Sorry.
Don't put too much pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity to just think about it, right? There doesn't have to be a perfect answer. It's just kind of explore the space.
Well, it was, day in life was, started like most other people's would be wake up and depending on what I was involved in, it would be either sometimes it would be in my bed, other times it would be or on the couch in my office. If I was at my office, it's because I was usually spending pulled an all-nighter doing a neck deep in some sort of scientific curiosity.
So let's do this almost like a Socratic dialogue. So, like, where was your office? Where did you live on Earth? Or was it a space station around Earth?
It was in the It was actually in the University of Nebraska, Lincoln.
Nebraska. I not have guessed that given the name. Why Nebraska? Was he born in Nebraska? Why Nebraska?
Yeah, he was well. His parents moved there when he was a baby. They
Where?
uh, Minnesota,
Fair. Okay.
It's
and
warmer there.
It's a bit warmer, yes.
yeah, and actually his mother worked in the same in that same place. She was a she taught ancient literature. Or
Ancient languages?
well, out of character. It's right now would be classical literature.
Oh, a classic. Oh, a classicist. Okay.
But 200 years from now, that's more ancient.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, she said it. It was basically a coin toss as to whether or not I got named Calvin or Ishmael.
That is a great detail. I think that we can probably, unless you have more that you're just dying to get out, we can probably
No.
go ahead and
No,
move on.
That's good.
So that would do we want to go back then to Nobilis, your moment? Oh, so first of all, both Calvin and Alan remove 1 point of strain.
Yay.
All right.
And
Welcome back, Lee.
just- the moment of discovery that I wanted to do was with Epsilon. Sasha, being the kind of person who believes that family is important, is really constantly on the lookout for people that he can make close personal relationships with, including romantic ones. And so at some point fairly early in Epsilon's career at Warframe Yard, Sasha would have expressed romantic interest, basic on our shared history as Belters, and would have made overtures in that direction. Not only because you're here and you're available, but also because you have some things in common, and he's attracted. And so the question to you is, did that lead anywhere? Were you romantically involved for a while and are now exes? Are they, where did that go? And I'm going to leave it entirely in your hands where that went.
I'm going to say it didn't go anywhere. I think I honestly think Epsilon is ace, and so she would not have been interested in a romantic relationship.
Okay. And Sasha would respect that.
Yeah.
And would then be looking at what other forms of intimacy aside from romance Epsilon was interested in.
Yeah, she has no problems being friends. I mean, she loves having friends. She had a lot of friends in Bradbury Weeps. She had a lot of friends that were in. That's how she met Cena. Is that she was the thing. she was one of the wanderers in of the belt, and one of Epsilon's contacts and one of her childhood friends. And she always keeps in contact with them. So she has no problem expanding that friend base.
Okay, so what do we do together? What have we done or do we do now together as a social activity?
Social activity.
This is more than one question, but I think it's.
Yeah, I think. Honestly, I think we get together and we play games. Whether it's dice games, card games, board games, Calvin ball.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter. Just something to to blow off steam and exercise, something that is not
Okay.
something that is not necessary for survival. Just something to
Okay.
now we can just rip roar and
Yeah.
have fun.
Yeah, we're not sparring. We're not, developing some useful skill. We're playing like the 23rd century version of Pinochle.
Nice.
Yeah, 3D pinochle that sometimes develops into strip poker that then ropes in a couple people and it turns into parcheesi and then charades.
Very
And
nice.
and they are the only people who know all the rules.
Yeah.
And if other people come in and it's like, okay, we're going to teach you this game, but we teach it by sitting down and playing it. And the other people are like, you're having me on. Can't be a real game. And it's like, no. Seriously. We played this back in the belt. This is great. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, great. So both Sasha and Epsilon can remove a point of strain. Yeah. Okay. Last but not least, we've got one for Calvin.
Okay. And basically the question could be anything about the character, like.
Yeah. The idea is to just explore that whichever character you're asking. I think mechanically it makes the most sense for you to ask Lee about Epsilon, just because no one else has strain left. But but yeah, it can be just anything you think would be a fun thing to explore about Epsilon. Anything that you think you would want to know, because this is, again, it's not Calvin finding out this information. It is
David.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what did Mars Corp do?
Why is Epsilon? Why does Epsilon believe Mars Corp is evil?
Well, what did Mars Corp do that made Epsilon believe what she does?
Right. Yeah. If I may add a little bit of context to that, I think certainly everybody knows in general why many Belters disliked Mars Corp and the way they came in and took things over and the way they did business and so on. But that there's a difference between the general animosity between someone from the Belt and their feelings about Mars Corp and the idea of someone who is actively in the resistance fighting against them, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think that what happened is that the reason that Epsilon grew up on the Belt is that her parents were involved in research to develop something, and I don't even know what it was. I can make something off the top of my head, but we can just leave it as she doesn't remember. But when she was very young, Mars Corp came and basically kidnapped her entire family and set fire to their house. Basically, she lost absolutely everything. And so Bradbury Weeps took her in, and so she was more raised in that environment because she was the only one left of her family.
If I may offer just like a world building detail, because you're
Sure.
from the Belt, you probably didn't have like a farmhouse that got set on fire, right?
No, I meant the interior of it.
Sure.
Was set on fire until the suppression systems came on to destroy any physical copies. They took the electronic copies of the research. They wanted to destroy any physical copies of the research so nobody could come in and take over the research. Mm-hmm. And so it basically, they thought they got everybody. Epsilon just happened to not be there. She wasn't in school. She wasn't in, she wasn't anywhere where she was supposed to be. So they didn't know to go get her. And so she just came back and her family was gone. And the place where she had lived was this burnt out husk filled with fire suppressant foam and gawkers. And she basically just, someone came to investigate from the resistance movement, found her there crying, and basically learned that that was what had happened. Or basically, he figured out what had happened, saw that there was this kid crying, made the connection, and said, okay, you got to come with me before Mars Corp comes back. Mm-hmm. And so that's basically what she has against Mars Corp. It's very, very personal.
So it seems like Epsilon would maybe share a bit of a emotional connection with the Jetsam, with those kids.
Oh yeah, yeah. The orphans of Mars Corp and the orphans of the war. Absolutely.
Heavy.
Okay, cool.
All right. So, both Epsilon and Calvin may remove 1 additional point of strain.
Yay!
Got a little
Thank you,
breathing room
Dad.
there, right? Yeah. And so, of note, now that we've had this moment of discovery, you don't clear your insight track or anything like that.
Oh no.
Instead, it would be once you've gotten to 6, we'd have a second moment of discovery, and then when you get to 9, although I don't know if we're going to have that happen tonight, you would have a moment of growth where you could choose to potentially have one of your beliefs become a conviction. One thing also worth noting there is that you could, at a moment of growth, take a belief that had been corrupted by the song or tormenta and fix it. Like you could decide to clear yourself of that corruption in a moment of growth. So, but in the meantime, let's move on to more scenes. So, I think. Gosh. Let's look at the map. I have to come up with a good place to have the certainly just on the basis of where we left things, right? Let's say that the platform for this scene is the main laboratory of the so Genesis of Legend in the chat is saying, why would you want to clear corruption? There are lovely, lovely mutations in Songcraft available.
Oh gosh.
So let's describe that the platform for this scene is the original bridge of the Defiance. This place where the flagship was once controlled from, but now is the headquarters of. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I was actually wanting it to be the electronics area because that's where Talus would be. That's actually what I was. Yeah. So rather than a set of workshops along one of the major runs near to salvage, we have. I think probably what might have been several crew quarters where the walls have been taken out to free up a little bit more space into a larger workshop. But then there's also a few of the other neighboring quarters that also, have the workshops for various employees, including Calvin. But our scene here is going to take place in the main workshop where we see Talus the Mercurio currently not present in this workshop. And they are, what we see though is that there are a number of crates opened that are the shipment from Daedalus Station. Some of the devices from that are are splayed across various workbenches, and there's a notable one that is plugged into the central computer for the workshop. And then there are also Hummers crawling all over everything, like hundreds of them. So that's where our scene will take place. And let's have, how about, who hasn't done a tilt yet?
I've done one.
I've done one.
I don't think I've done one.
Neither have I.
All right. Well, so Lee, then, how about you do the tilt? And so, in some ways, the tilt could just be following directly up on what we learned, which is to say, Talus might be involved somehow. So it could be, you're following up on that, right? But
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be just that, and it also, you have the opportunity now to sort of explore, like, how does that go down, even if that is what's happening, right? Is it just Calvin and Epsilon go and knock, 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 or is it something more intense than that?
I think that Sina and Farah noticed that Talus didn't show up, and so they would have gone to find him first. So it would more likely be Calvin and Epsilon, and then Sasha and Alan joining, or definitely.
We're not choosing who's in the scene yet. We're just
No.
saying
But I meant that would be that makes sense for what I believe we've established of the three leaders, is that they would have noticed, well, where is he? Why hasn't he shown up? Let's go check on him. Maybe he got buried under a pile of crap and hasn't been able to dig his way out again like last time. And so they would have. I think that's where the scene would start, is them gaining access to his quarters.
Right. Well, and one of the things too is that even though, like, mechanically we don't officially decide who's an actor and who's audience until after we have the question, but it could still be true that you could decide to have the tilt be all four of us show up and kick the door down, right? Like, you could say that that's what the tilt is.
Okay. I want to say that at least Farah and Cena show up and kick the door down.
Okay, so Farah and Cena do have. So are you thinking that they have done this prior to have been being told about anything from Epsilon?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
because if the prior scene established that both of them showed up because there was an uproar of some sort, and so as kind of the community leaders, they have a responsibility to show up and try to manage stuff. What happened to Talus? Where is he? And so I think that would have probably been, okay, I've given them their marching orders. They're going. Let's go find out what happened to this dude who was supposed to show up and didn't. I mean, they've been working together for years. They would know that, and he would know what his responsibilities are and that kind of thing.
Okay,
So
let me take your twist. Let me take your suggestion and make it into a tilt.
okay,
They've gone there. Nobody's heard from them since they went, and now we're wondering what happened to them. That, to me, is more of a tilt.
okay.
So, like, just to elaborate on that, perhaps Epsilon and Calvin were basically saying, "Oh, we found out critical information. We need to tell Farah and Cena. Where are they?" And someone says, "I think they went to go tell Talus what's going on." That was a while ago, actually.
Yeah, and they're not answering. And they're not answering communications.
Yeah, Yeah, I think that could work.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
think that since Farah kind of made Sasha in charge of this investigation, Sasha would absolutely be going there.
So I would, yeah, and so
So what
our
the
yeah, okay. So yeah, you
so the
guys could all be there.
Yep.
But
Yeah, and-
what's the question though?
yeah, Lee, you need to name someone to set the question.
I'm going to pass it over to David.
Okay. Lee,
Okay.
did you feel like your tilt suggestion is being
Yeah,
honored?
yeah, no,
Okay,
no, that's
good.
that's absolutely
Okay,
fine.
Great.
All right. Question is, I well, what happened to Cena and Farah, and did Talus have is this some sort of foul play by Talus, or is there some foul play involved?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we can make that one question, right?
Yeah.
It could just be, you know, where are they, right? Or what happens to them. I mean, because you kind of answered three questions that are all along that same line, right?
Yeah. What happened? What happened to them? Kind of encompasses all you're looking for, and let's just explore the possibilities. Some of them very bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And so we can have a scene here, and in theory, all of you could be there, but I would also offer that if not all of you are there, then those of you who are not get to be audience mode with me to help determine the answer to those questions. So who's there?
I think
I mean-
Epsilon is there just because Cena is her friend, and so she'd want to make sure she's okay.
And Talus is my connection to the community. Not to mention I'm following Sasha around. So.
Also Calvin's boss.
Also Calvin's boss. Yeah, I think we're all there again.
All right, no, that's okay. It's allowed. I mean, we got big stuff happening. So we could have said, you know, like, Calvin and Epsilon caught up with Alan and Sasha and said, "You won't believe it. We found this out. We gotta tell their others, etc., etc."
Yeah.
All right. So our question: what happened to Farah, Cena, and Talus? So, but we begin as all four of you, hoping to answer that question, not knowing why they're not replying. Open the door to Talus's electronics laboratory and see it as I described it. Hummers everywhere, components from these crates, some of them taken out, some of them assembled and being worked on, etc. No people apparent.
Is Talus the kind of person that slept in their office?
Their belief, as established in our settlement description, is that money is freedom. That speaks to
So they
me of
use it- they
someone
spend-
who has money and has used it to make a nice place.
Okay. I wasn't sure where in their money arc they are, whether they're still building that so they're going to sleep in their office just to accumulate more money, or
They're one of the community leaders. I think they're
Yeah.
doing okay.
But I can imagine Talus basically like, yeah, he has a separate living space, but I don't think it'd be very far away. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
'cause if I don't
mean, I
see
could
them
actually
there,
see-
that's my Alan's first thought is okay. Check out Talus's living quarters.
Like I could see it having an entrance onto his workshop because, like, hey, I have money. I have the freedom to come and go from work anytime I want. Work, home. Yeah.
I think Epsilon is concerned. Should we be unplugging stuff? Because this is worrisome.
You're two are the tech
Yeah.
experts.
That
I just fly ships and fire guns.
definitely that piece that's hooked up to the computer. I think I definitely need to see what. Take a
All right.
closer look at the computer, see what it's saying.
You guys look at the tech. I'll look at the other stuff.
Okay.
So
All right. So
I'm going to. Yeah.
again, this is a little bit of a challenge in the sense of like just we're not just doing like a computer's check, exactly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think that rather than try to make everything be a role, when it's really just
Yeah.
about taking the time to find information, I think that instead I'm just going to basically tell you guys what you find.
Right.
So,
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
so basically, what you see, Calvin and Epsilon, is that the device that is plugged into Talus's sort of like primary computer looks very similar to the thing that was on King's device. But it appears that what was Talus was doing with it is performing like a diagnostic like check on it, and it seems as though all of the sort of like antivirus, anti-malware sorts of things were activated, meaning like being careful to check what's on this thing while having it be like, isolated from other systems and so on. So basically, if what you were doing is wanting to do a careful check of something you suspected was dangerous, that's what you would do.
Yeah.
And so it seems that that's what Talus was doing with the one that's plugged in. And then some of the other ones that are on the counter have, look like they were just getting more of a visual examination, perhaps being prepped for, disassembly to evaluate. And then there's a lot more stuff that's still in the crates. What the computer is showing you right now, first of all, is that it is ready to display the results, but has not just done so yet. So what that means is Talus would not have seen this yet. So Talus was running a study, and it was taking its time, and it is now it's basically saying, analysis complete, would you like to display results?
Ah. Then, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
The answer
Yeah.
to all the questions of above is yes.
Right. So, the what it says is on it is that it was originally a device that was intended to act. It was basically an early experiment done by a different organization than what produced Tormenta. And it was another attempt to have an anti-song weapon that looked like it was following instead, trying to be more like a vaccine. Where it took the song itself and attempted to render it harmless in a way that someone might be able to get a low level dose of it in a way that would prevent it from completely taking them over, but rendering them then immune to infection from other sources.
Oh,
that-
shit.
That's what these devices were intended to be for. The results here does not say what the ultimate status of that project was, or whether there were any test subjects even ever performed, or but what this device is something that is essentially intended to be a way to deliver this sample vaccine. This experimental thing. And having worked on Tormenta, like, there's a reason you guys didn't go that way.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
couple reasons that you didn't go that way. One, of course, is that it requires you to have access to the actual song, which is in itself inherently crazy dangerous. But also that just who could say how to make it deactivated enough that it works as a vaccine and doesn't just take someone over, right? How would you even test that? But then again, people were trying everything, right? So you don't know what just like the details of Tormenta, the Project Tormenta were kept under wraps, you didn't hear anything about this. So you don't know the status of the project itself. What you know is that there are now in this workshop crates full of these things that could be used to deliver what, in theory, should be a vaccine for the song.
Oh boy.
If it works.
And are any of these devices on? The one being tested is on, obviously, but
Right. What they are each intended to do is basically hook up to basically like an audio device. Like you would give someone headphones and it connects to that.
yeah.
And so none of them are like playing because they would all need to be connected to something in order to play. And they all seem to be inert unless they, the way that it works is you connect it to it's essentially, if you imagine it's a Walkman, right?
Yeah.
You've got a crate full of Walkmans here that currently have no speakers plugged into them.
See? But I mean, it's like it appears to be attracting Hummers. So it's like,
Well, yes and no. I mean, the Hummers were kind of everywhere already, so maybe you don't understand why that's happening yet. Yeah. In the meantime, what were Alan and Sasha looking around for?
Alan was going to go look at the living quarters. Basically, leave the tech to the tech experts. I was going to look for more personal evidence of maybe Talos left suddenly, packed their bags and left. So checking the living quarters for evidence of that.
All right. So, what you find in the living quarters is a bunch of furniture knocked over, and a table crushed, and what looks like a small pool of blood on the carpet, but no one's in there. So there's clearly some kind of a struggle. Yeah.
So yeah, I'll call for Sasha. Marshall, I think you need to see this.
All right, I come over from what I was doing. I'm sorry. I am a little distracted because a friend of mine was having a bit of a crisis, and I was talking to them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's my fault for diverting my attention. But can you fill me in?
There's signs of a struggle in the living quarters. No one is present, but it looks like there was a violence.
Okay. Well, this is not something we can keep quiet.
No.
We need to get people involved and search the ship. I don't think there's any other.
And maybe beyond, if they fly.
Well, we start with the ship.
We start with the ship.
Take inventory of the vehicles, that kind of thing. I'm going to head to salvage.
Right?
That's where the vehicles are. That's where the people I know are. And we're going to need to. I don't think this is a good time to keep things quiet.
All right. So
We have to be unified.
is everyone going together? Does Alan, in the interest of his belief, say that, hey, the four of us, come on, we need to go together?
we all need to act. So yeah, I'm gonna go I'm going to go to Calvin and Epsilon and inform them what I found and tell them that we need to deal with this now. If this equipment can sit, it's fine. We should just lock up this place, not let anybody in, and then find out what happened to our community leaders, all three of them, because something's bad
Yeah.
happened. And time is
So,
wasting.
so are you all? What's the plan? And also worth noting that we could do conflicts between player characters if there was ever disagreement on that level. But
Just let me save this and shut this down before go don't want.
I'm also just going to say that there's a little a little thought in the back of your mind, Calvin, that realizes, there was a lot of damage done with keeping all of these sorts of experiments a secret. Something as big as the idea that there might be a vaccine to the song, people should know about that.
Well, that's why, as part, he's basically take the readout, copy onto basically a
floppy.
external storage, and as he shut things down, take the thing with him. So
One of the little modules?
well,
People aren't going to believe you otherwise.
Huh?
People aren't going to believe you if you don't have one of the things.
Yeah,
I'm not going to force you to do that. I'm just kind of saying,
he would take it and a copy of what was pulled off the computer.
Sure. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
You don't even get a
Okay.
fate point.
I think Epsilon is going to say, well, while you guys are checking the ship, I'm going to head up to the area to see if I can see any vehicles traveling around. Get me a pair of binoculars, just so that while you're clearing the thing, they don't have time to get away if they've got a vehicle and they're already on the move.
All right. Okay, so let's first follow who's going to salvage with Sasha.
I am.
All right.
Calvin would be too.
Okay. So let's first follow you guys. You head to salvage, and you are, you make your way over there. Do you want to describe salvage a little bit? Since you are the one that your character would have spent the most time there, Sasha?
Yeah. It's set up in what was one of the ship's two fighter bays and shuttle bays and things like that. All of the vehicles at the time had been launched, so it was empty when it crashed, and all the racks and equipment for maintaining them has kind of been stripped out, and now it's a big garage for the trucks that go out to do the salvage missions and the shuttle. Alan's shuttlecraft is there, and then there's kind of big yards set up in other open areas for just disassembling things and processing all the stuff that gets brought back, and then packaging up stuff that's going to be sent somewhere else. So it's there's like one side of it is where the trucks come in and unload stuff, and then there's a bunch of places where it gets separated and refined and all these other things go on, and then there's another part where they get put on pallets and that kind of thing. There's not really an office. Things are kind of handled pretty informally over there.
I think that as you enter the area, you're hearing a loud, like, banging, thumping sound coming from the door to sort of like a supply closet.
Okay.
and you're hearing Talus's voice inside shouting, "Help! Let me out! They're infected! Someone's got to stop them! Let me out of here! God damn it! Someone let me out!"
All right.
Oh, oh no. Okay, good.
Yeah.
They sound desperate.
Sasha is like, did they put you in here because they said you were infected?
So what was your relationship with Talus? Let's just refresh, right? Because
I'm
you
not
guys,
sure I actually had one, but
I
didn't-
do, though.
didn't
Yeah.
you? So yeah, that Talus was the one that you didn't have a connection to.
Yeah.
So I think that like you've certainly seen them around, but I think the fact that Talus is a Mercurio, one of these shape changing aliens. I don't know that I'm not going to put on you that your character has some sort of a bias, but maybe just a general sense of like, you don't really feel like you know them very well.
Well, the fact that Talus is kind of like a different person to different people makes him always wonder whether it's even possible to know the true person, and that puts him off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you asked.
I mean, for
like,
the same, I mean, a human who did that, because there are people who do that. A human who do that would also be kind of a little creepy
yeah.
to Sasha. He really, really values authenticity and knowing who the real person is. Not that you, I mean, objectively, he's probably deluded that you can ever really know that, but that's how he feels.
So you asked did they put you in there because they said you're infected? It's like, they put me in here because I figured out what they're up to. They're going to the transmitter right now. We don't have time for this. Bam, bam, bam.
Going to the transmitter with what?
What do you think? The song.
From one of those modules?
Why aren't you letting me out? Bam, bam, bam.
Hold on, I thought it
Easy,
was
easy.
Alan. I thought it was Alan who was with me.
They both came
All
with
three,
you.
all three. Yeah. David's with. Yeah, not
Oh,
David.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Calvin Suter. Okay.
Yeah, Calvin.
Sorry. Alan,
Yes.
you know this person better than I do.
Tell us. Calm down. Tell us what happened.
There isn't time for this. If I don't care, fine, keep me in here, but stop them. Do something. Jesus. Not, I was going to do an earth curse, but like,
Yeah.
like for crying out loud, there's not time for this. They've
Right.
got the song. They're going to spread it to everybody.
I'll look at Calvin. We should go to the transmitter. Now.
All right, then let's do that.
You're leaving Talus locked up?
I am leaving Talus locked up, just in case he's not on the level.
All right.
Calvin would know what happens to a Mercurio and infected with the song, right?
Yeah, this is not. So when people are infected with the song, they get really sort of like hyper logical and kind of mellow and like this. No, so
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay. I was misreading that. In that case, then.
yeah.
then
So
he's
if
not
someone
acting
has,
like he has to-
yeah. So you would expect it was kind of like with King, like he had the song, and so he was more like, even though his lab had just gotten ruined, he was the one kind of saying, I don't see what the problem is. Why don't, it was just a normal experiment, that sort of thing. It's unity and harmony and everybody gets along. Yeah.
And Tormenta, by comparison, is.
Well, it's like the opposite. It's like all of your base emotions, instincts, rage, anger, desire.
So in
cranked up to
theory,
11.
In theory, Talus could be infected with Tormenta. In theory, but definitely not with the song.
Very unlikely that it's going to be
Okay,
the song.
so then
The
that
song generally
case,
wouldn't
then,
present this way.
then I'm going to unlock the door.
Okay.
The song is the greater, more present
Yeah.
threat at the moment.
You open the door and you see Talus in a state that you've never seen them in. There's like blood dripping down the side of their face. Their face is actually like, it's like a composite of 4 different people's faces. Like
Ooh.
the features don't match each other. One of the arms is like being held close to the body, like it's maybe broken, but it doesn't have a sling or anything like that. But the Talus, charges out of the room as soon as the doors open, and immediately looks at Sasha with a furious expression. Can't believe you're going to keep me in here when the community's at risk, and charges at you. And so we're going to have a conflict now.
Oh, crap. Sorry, Sasha.
Well, another question I'd have is, were Tormenta affected Mercurio the same similar way as
Yes.
the side
Yes.
effect of it? Not
Yes.
Yeah, in general, this is you believe that this is again, it's one of those things where it would be reasonable for someone to feel something this is urgent and scary and makes them angry and everything in that case. So but at the same time, yeah, it is unreasonable for them to now attack Sasha if it's actually as pressing as they say. That doesn't make sense. This is I think this is a bad sign. It's pretty
It's a very bad sign.
But
It's fantastic.
so here, this is definitely going to be conflict, right?
Yep.
This is someone who's got a serious Tormenta infection. I'm just going to go ahead and say that is definitely confirmed. That's what's going on here. So we have three threat dice, vector dice rather. And then I think in this context here, a small group of people are in danger. So that's also 3. So I'm rolling 66. Their goal right now is to beat you bloody, Sasha. Presumably, you don't want that to happen, I would guess. But do you?
Yeah.
What? Give me your goal in this conflict.
My goal is, this is. I mean, this is. I don't see how he can do anything except try and kill them. But the problem is, I don't think I'm going to have a whole lot of dice in this.
Well, this is where, for example, the idea that other people can offer up strain in order to assist.
And I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to
Makes
try
sense,
to pull Talus off of you to get them back in class. I don't know that you're trying to kill them, but
This is as advanced an infection as King was. This is not something that Sasha's going to tell Alan. But as far as his side of the fight is concerned, he's
fighting to kill. But I want to protect Sasha from the enraged Mercurio, so I'm definitely going to help.
Okay. I think I've got a die to start with. Clearly, violence. Clearly, survival. Clearly, I think.
Memetics?
Mimetics.
I was thinking from Echoes.
Oaths.
Oaths, yeah, because this is him his kind of oath to protect the community.
That's a little bit of a stretch, I think.
Yeah, well, see, I'm stretching as far as I can to get.
Oh no, I get it. I'm gonna. I think oaths is stretched too far.
Okay. Aside from that, the only other ones I've got are hope and disputes.
I mean,
I don't think, and I think hope is a big stretch. Disputes, I think, is
Yeah, I think disputes. I think that this is a dispute.
okay. So
Yeah,
that puts me at 5 dice.
yeah. All right. All right.
Ooh.
So, yes. Tormenta eating
Oh,
your face is a legit dispute, according to our game designer here. So we got
Okay,
18
Awesome.
is what you're up against.
I got 2 5s, a 1 and 2 2s for a 15. So I'm a little short.
you're a little short.
Alan, if you would take strain for me, I'll re-roll 3 dice.
I am taking strain from you as I'm trying to pull the Mercurial off of you, off of Shasha.
Okay, and I rolled 2 more 5s and a 4 for a total of 24.
All right, so that definitely gets the job done. So narrate how this plays out. Basically, the Talus is in there, but is currently experiencing such a flood of rage hormones that there's no getting them to see reason right now.
Okay. He to cover like the mechanic of having to re-roll. Sasha is initially surprised and bowled backwards by this onslaught. Manages to get like a knee in between their bodies and is straining to push him off. And then Alan comes by and manages to peel the Mercurio off of Sasha.
Sasha.
Sasha then does a roundhouse kick to the injured arm in order to try to cause like maximum amount of pain to stun Talus into submission and throw him back into the and kind of put him at his on the defensive. Pulls out his gun, is about to shoot him, and I think Alan stops him.
Yeah, I would stop you from shooting him.
So we throw him back into the same place he was before and close
And lock
it,
him in.
lock him in, and I'm going to say, Alan, I need you to stand guard and make sure nobody else lets him out.
All right, I can do that.
And I'm going to call up Epsilon and
Calvin?
Yeah,
Epsilon and Calvin
they're
and
not
say,
far. They probably would have heard the scuffle.
we need to go find the others, and find out what they're up to. When would I know where they would be headed if they were going to transmit something?
Yeah, I think the bridge probably.
Well, I was thinking, okay, in my kind of description of the ship, I described that like the upper levels of the ship are unstable and lots of stuff is prone to collapse and it's dangerous. And the reason why the map is really two-dimensional is because you can't go down too far in the ship before you wind up in the sumps, and you can't go up too high before you start winding yourself in the heights, and neither places are really tremendously safe. So, but if you were going to transmit something, being up high would be good.
Right.
So for increased drama, I think that the chase goes into the heights would be fun.
Yeah, so I like that idea, but the reason I was saying the bridge was because we had specifically discussed in our session 0 that part of the reason that Cena took over the bridge was not so much because of the bridge being the bridge as much as, yeah, I need to run a big antenna through here.
Okay.
Because they're the one that is doing the data mining operation and is the one that would
Right.
generally have the.
Right. All right.
most
So
transmitters.
yeah, we're going to be pelting down the runs toward the bridge.
Yeah.
Okay, so question. Epsilon did not head down with you. She was actually heading up to the heights to try to get an aerial view outside the compound.
Yeah. That's
So-
right. Yeah. So we're gonna check in with her now that everyone else is
Yeah.
running around. So on that,
Did we? What was the question on that scene? Or
what
is
happened
the question on
to
the scene?
what happened to Cena, Farah, and Talus? So we
I
know
think
one of the
yeah,
three.
we've answered that, haven't we?
Well, yeah.
Well, we
So
answered part of it.
so
Okay.
yeah. So what you
Okay.
have now is what Talus said about Farah and Cena, but you haven't
Okay.
caught
All
up
right.
with them. You don't know where they're. So, but here's the
Okay.
question: we could say that's the answer of this scene, and then make further investigation another scene. We could do that.
Well, no, I'm fine with continuing on this scene.
All right. I think that we don't have much further to go.
Okay.
But so first of all, let's just say that I think what you discover, Epsilon, going up there, you were specifically wanting to be on the lookout for any like unexpected ships either arriving or anyone trying to leave in a hurry, that sort of thing.
Yeah. That was my intent for going up there, to try and get the aerial view just in case somebody was leaving.
So here's what I think you see is that you look out, over the hull of the ship to see where like this sort of, airfield, right, is for the area. And what you see is that it looks to be under lockdown. Like there's a lot of people standing around. Like none of the ships are in operation or even powered up, and there's a lot of people standing around like they have been told to stop doing what they were doing and not fly anywhere. So it looks as though the airfield here has been put under lockdown. But this, that in this location, that there's nothing that enforces that really. It's just people, whether either they're cooperating or not, right? But at least right now, what you see is a lot of people standing around going like, what is this all about? Like, is this serious? Like, what's going on? A lot of people gossiping about what they think is the reason for this. So, yeah. So at present, there doesn't seem to be anyone who's like immediately trying to leave. You don't see anyone, like there's not a gigantic ship on the horizon or anything like that.
Okay, so I'll get on the communicator with Sasha and say, Sasha, it looks like everybody is sticking to the lockdown. No incoming ships, no outgoing ships that I can see from here.
All right.
Is Sasha going to tell me to head down to the
Bridge?
or?
Yeah, I mean, you could. Do you? Oh, Nobilis?
I'm sorry.
That, that's
I-
okay. So here's the thing. We could go ahead and how about this? How about this? I'm going to offer this because I'm going to have a way to end this scene just shortly here, and then if you need to go, I think
Okay.
we can finish
Yeah.
things next week.
Yeah, let's finish things. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'll just go ahead and narrate the rest of this scene, which is that all of you managed to collect back together, except for Alan, who's still guarding Talus. Barge into like the bridge transmitter area and find that both Farah and Cena seem to be there. They look a little bit roughed up, as though perhaps they had a scuffle with, say, Talus. But they're otherwise seem to be acting clear and don't seem to have any obvious symptoms of either type of infection right now. And what they tell you is that they have been, once they found that Talus was acting crazy, they think something reactivated the latent tormenta in Talus. Something, like everyone's kind of got it a little from when it was cleared out,
Yeah.
when it went through. So they something seems to have reactivated it and made it bad. And so that's why they locked him up. And in the meantime, what they've been trying to do is keep any transmissions from going to the Peacekeepers, but they have honestly, between the two of them, started to wonder if that's still the right call. But I think that that's where we can go ahead and end that scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so let's go through just briefly beliefs, and then we can close for this session, and then we'll maybe have a big conclusion next week. So,
Okay.
so we can start with your character, Nibilis. Large settlements are dangerous. I mean, that seems like that's still
Yeah.
very, very much the
yeah,
meat and potatoes of what's happening here.
I mean, to be honest, I think that may have, in retrospect, may have been like a bit too much of a gimme.
Well,
because
yeah, I think
the stories are always about danger, and the way the game is built, it's always about settlements, and so.
Yes
The
and
fact
no.
that-
Like I think it sometimes just comes down to what the story being told is. Because for example,
Yeah.
if I had decided to present a scenario where Mars Corp was much more involved, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it was much more about the politics of
Or
companies.
if it was a story that was set out on a salvage run instead of in Warframe.
Right. So I think
know,
it just so happens that the story being told is much more in line with your beliefs there.
Yeah.
But
I don't think that Lone Wolf Starve is terribly good here, though, because I don't think in this scene, I don't think we had any lone wolves.
I mean, maybe Talus, who is kind of doing their own thing, but yeah, I think it's maybe a stretch.
Yeah.
I think in the case of Talus, it's more he was he was doing stuff on his own, but it's because there really wasn't that much time for him to get help or
Yeah.
to ask
Yeah,
for help.
things just seem like they're happening pretty fast.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that would be one more point for you.
Yep.
Alan, how about you?
Recreation didn't come into it, but I worked with the group. I followed Sausage orders. I went right with the unifying. I'm a team player,
Yeah.
so I think that one is valid.
Everybody working together is what seems like it's helping to solve these problems. Like,
Yes,
this is bad,
exactly.
but everyone going their own way and doing their own thing is the last thing that you need right now.
We'll get Talus, yes.
All right, yeah, so I think that would be another 2 points for you.
One point.
Right, yeah, with no
Yeah,
recreation.
recreation doesn't
Yeah.
come into it, yes.
Okay, so Epsilon, once again, I think Mars Corp hasn't really. You know what? This is a retcon, but I want to because it's something I kind of meant to do and then forgot to say.
Okay.
The song vaccine thing, like Tormenta was done by Black Sun, but the vaccine was Mars Corp.
I like that retcon.
It was
I
Mars
like that
Corp's
retcon a
attempt to
Yeah.
their it was their version of what of trying to solve all this.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. So I'm
But
retconning it, but
It
I
does
feel
get to a
like
point, though. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
and I'm not doing that just to give you a point, but I that was something I meant to say when I described it and I forgot.
Yeah, I think definitely individuality. I think she showed, she maybe functions as a team, but she can definitely, call her own shots and still be part of that team effort.
Yeah.
I think she showed that, whether or not she knows that this was Mars Corp's thing. I don't know. Would she have been able to tell that from the readouts?
Well, I think that there was Mars Corp logo all over some of that stuff.
Okay, yeah,
records
no,
that you saw with Calvin. Now that said, one of the things that's reasonable is, although it seems like there is potential danger involved with these things, what this is and what it was intended to be was a weapon to fight the song with. Is that an evil thing? Frankly, Tormenta did a lot of damage. If this worked, it would potentially be a much gentler way to protect people.
But on the other hand,
Oh, oh, oh,
the
oh, 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 oh. I finish, but I want my next turn next.
Okay.
okay. What I was going to say is just on the other hand, King might not have gotten the song if he hadn't been messing around with these boxes that had
Well-
a copy of the song in them.
Yes, but I think it's nuanced, right? Like you
Yeah.
can certainly be looking for the reason that everything is evil, but that's more like an accident from them trying to do a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the question isn't whether or not the belief is supported or eroded so much as whether it's addressed. And I think it's clear
Yeah.
that it's
Oh, yeah.
addressed.
No question. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. So that was 2 points for you, and then last but not least, that's Calvin. So knowledge must be shared. We definitely I nudged you on that one, but a little
Oh, yeah.
bit, but
Oh, yeah.
definitely is
I mean,
involved there, right?
He was always going to take at least a copy of what was on the computer 1st like no matter what,
Yeah.
because of that belief.
What about lives are not currency? I mean, you saw both, Farah and Cena seemed to not kill Talus, and then Alan and Sasha didn't kill Talus, even though he's
Yeah.
infected.
So Sasha was ready to do it. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
stop
I
them
mean,
from doing
you saw Sasha wrestle with that, and I was going to mention
Yeah.
that after you're done.
Yeah, that it's definitely something something he's thinking about. It's like and it's like it's all, and this kind of thing is like, is the person able to be saved, or is the person gone?
Yeah.
Like, so it lives are less a currency and more of weights you place on the scale.
Yeah. So in this sense, I think that's another 2 points for you. Does that get you to 6?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so what that means is that I think we start next time with a moment of discovery for both Calvin and Epsilon.
Okay.
I would like to make an argument for Lone Wolf Starve.
Okay.
The discovery that they were working on a vaccine has put doubts into Sasha's mind over whether killing King was the right thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I
Like,
see.
what if King had that vaccine? He didn't have the song, he had the vaccine, and the side effect is you're a little sing-songy, but it never goes any further than that. And so he's like, oh, expletive.
Yeah.
Insert expletive here. Yeah.
Space swear.
I
And,
really like that mechanic.
and,
No,
and so
I will absolutely give you that. Yeah.
the reason that he was so quiet in the rest of the things after that discovery was that he's seriously doubting that now. I mean, that's like not necessarily doubting the Lone Wolf Starve, but just, was that shooting actually
Yeah.
legit? Did I
I think that
overstep?
is one of the perfect sorts of dilemmas to have in a game like this, because sometimes you really do need to act quickly or else something could spin out of control. But when you act quickly, you don't necessarily have all the information.
Yeah, no, he's had things like this happen in the past. You couldn't be a marshal and not have done things that later on you learn were maybe not exactly the right thing. But he's seriously, like, basically he's at the point where he needs some time. And he needs to talk to someone about this. And now is not the time. And but I was thinking that, that could be a moment further on the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can mark that one as well.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
All right. So Next time we'll begin with moments of discovery for Calvin and Epsilon. But in the meantime, we've got threats on a couple of different vectors here.
Yeah.
So we'll find out what happens next time after the war. All right. So thank you everybody for listening and or watching, whether you're watching us live or on the video on demand later or listening to the audio version. Thank you. We hope you enjoyed. And in the meantime, go sing your favorite song.
Just watch out for earworms.
All right. So
Yeah.
good night, everyone.
All right.
Good night.